Some winds don't just shift the dust. Some carry the sound of fate dragging its boots across the land. That morning, the sky over Whetstone Ridge was bruised with a yellow-gray haze, as if the world held its breath. Folks whispered it might storm. But there wasn't rain in that wind. Only change. Beau Callahan had just finished hauling a bucket of well water to the stubborn pear tree out back, the one his late wife had named Mercy. He still talked to it some nights. Not for answers, just to remember the shape of his voice in company. A man can forget that, after 5 years alone. He paused by the gate when he saw the wagon arrive. Dust fanned behind the wheels like the tail of a dragon. Sheriff Jed stood near the feed store, chewing on nothing. Everyone else just watched. The wagon creaked to a halt, and the woman driving it, sharp-chinned, tight-lipped, climbed down, barked 2 names, then yanked the canvas back. 2 girls tumbled down. They were twins, that much was clear, same apple-shaped cheeks, same long dresses stained with travel, same way they stared at the ground like it had betrayed them. "Take M," the woman snapped to no one in particular. "I'm done." Someone laughed nervously. "Nettie Thorne, probably. They eat like hogs and cry like babies," the woman continued. "I've got no patience left for either." She climbed back on the wagon and drove off. Not a single glance backward. The girls didn't cry at first. Just stood in the center of the street, silent and heavy, like stones the river had left behind. One clutched a limp cloth rabbit. The other kept her fists balled tight, jaw locked like she might bite the wind. Beau didn't move. Neither did the sheriff. The taller twin finally looked up. Her eyes swept over the faces gathered, faces full of scorn, or worse, pity. And she understood. She knelt beside her sister, who was trembling now, and pulled her close. No one stepped forward. Later, Jed would swear he was just about to when Beau did instead. He walked into the street like the dust didn't bother him, like the world wasn't watching. He knelt beside the girls, took off his hat, and said in a voice worn smooth by silence, "Reckon I've got room if you don't mind pears and quiet." The girls said nothing. But the one with the rabbit didn't flinch when he offered his hand. She took it like she'd done it before, many times, but never with hope. Beau didn't say another word. Just tipped his hat toward Jed and led them toward the edge of town. The wind picked up then, sharp and warm, carrying away whatever was left of their old life. His house was small, wood creaking in all the wrong places, but the chimney didn't smoke black, and the steps didn't moan. That was more than some places. He gave them the guest room. 2 iron-frame beds, still made with Delilah's lace-trimmed quilts. He hadn't touched those beds in years. Thea, the quiet one with the rabbit, sat on hers like it might disappear. Lottie, the bolder one, inspected every corner like she was scouting for a trap. Dinner was beans, warm bread, and stewed apples. They ate with both hands and without words. Beau didn't mind. He wasn't much for talking either. When Lottie asked, "Do we gotta say a prayer?" he simply replied, "Only if you want the beans to behave." That night, he sat by the fireplace and listened. Not for trouble, just for sound. The muffled giggle behind the guest room door felt strange in his chest. Like something cracking. The town, of course, had opinions by morning. Beau Callahan's taken in those girls? Nettie Thorne hissed to Iris Wynne as they passed the mercantile. "They're not even kin." "Those girls are nothing but trouble," another man muttered. "One of 'em punched my nephew over a sandwich last spring. Real wild type." Iris, who taught the schoolhouse and had more sense than the lot of them, just said, maybe what they needed was someone who didn't scare easy. Sheriff Jed didn't say much either. But he rode past Beau's gate more often that week. Not checking, just watching. The girls settled like dust. Slowly, gently. Beau found Thea sitting beneath Mercy one morning, whispering something to the leaves. She stopped when he approached. "She likes stories," Thea said shyly, touching the tree trunk. Beau just nodded. She was planted by someone who told real good ones. Thea offered her rabbit like it was a peace offering. Beau took it with care, ran a thumb over the fraying ear, then handed it back. "Good stitching. She yours?" "She's always been mine," Thea said softly. Lottie, meanwhile, followed Beau around like a ranch dog. She asked questions, about the orchard, the tools, why horses blink so slow. "'Cause they're patient," Beau said once. "Are you patient?" she asked. "Reckon I try." She squinted at him like that was the wrong answer. They helped without being asked. Picked fallen fruit, chased off crows, tried to sweep though the broom was taller than Thea. They didn't know how to sit still unless they were asleep. That suited Beau fine. But town didn't forget. When Beau tried bringing the girls to the schoolhouse, kids laughed before they reached the steps. "They'll break the bench," one boy shouted. Thea froze. Lottie turned red, fists ready. Beau knelt between them and looked at Lottie. "They want you to swing. Don't let them." "But they're loud." "You don't have to be." Still, they didn't go in that day. Bo didn't press. That night, he found a sketch left on the porch table. Pencil on scrap paper. It was rough, clumsy, but clear, 3 figures under a tree. 2 small, 1 tall. Mercy's branches stretched wide above them. He stared at it long after the lanterns were out. Later, he pinned it to the wall where Delilah's wedding portrait once hung. Not as a replacement. As a beginning. One night, thunder rolled far off. Not near enough to storm, but enough to stir memories. Thea came out barefoot, rabbit clutched to her chest. I had a bad dream. Bo scooted over on the porch bench. I have too. She sat beside him, legs swinging. Did your wife draw? She asked. He was quiet a long moment. She sang to trees. Said it made the fruit sweeter. Thea rested her head against his shoulder. We don't sing much. Lottie says our songs scare folks. Bo thought about that. Then said, might be time someone learned to listen. By the time the leaves began turning gold, the town's whispers hadn't stopped, but they had faded. A few nods replaced side eyes. Bo still kept to himself mostly. But when he walked through town with Thea and Lottie beside him, there was something firm in the way he held his head. One afternoon, Iris Wynne came by with a pie. For the girls, she said, not meeting his eyes at first. Or, for you. Bo took it gently. You didn't have to. No, she said. But maybe I wanted to. The girls squealed over the pie. Lottie said she wanted to learn how to make one better. Thea offered Iris a flower from the orchard. Neither knew how to curtsy, but they tried. Iris laughed. And Bo noticed she hadn't laughed like that in a long while. That night, as he shut the front door and listened to the soft hush of the orchard beyond, Bo realized something he hadn't dared to think in years. The wind had changed. And for once, it had brought something worth holding on to. There are seasons that pass like breath, unnoticed, unlabeled. But spring in Whetstone Ridge came like a revelation that year, and not because the peach blossoms bloomed early or the rains were kind. It came in laughter. The orchard hummed differently now. Bo could feel it in his bones. Where silence once pressed against the walls of his home, there was motion, noise, life. Thea and Lottie had taken to talking to the trees as if they were old neighbors. Each had their favorite. Thea sat often beneath a crooked pear tree she named Hush. Lottie preferred the stubborn apple tree that only bore fruit every other year, she called it Bossy. Bo watched them grow not in inches but in light. They still carried the weight the world had thrust on them, too big, too strange, too loud for some narrow eyes, but now they bore it like something earned. The kind of weight you choose to carry. It was Lottie who insisted on painting the orchard sign anew. This land's got a new name, she declared, paintbrush clenched in her fist like a sword. Callahan Sisters Orchard. She paused. Well, and Mr. Bo. Bo scratched his beard. Reckon I don't mind sharing the credit. You better not, she said, grinning wide. By April, Thea could recite whole stanzas of cowboy poems she found in Iris Wynne's schoolhouse library, and Lottie had started carving initials into the barn wood, her own, Thea's, and Bo's, surrounded by crooked hearts. You think she'd be mad? Lottie asked once, nodding at the heavens. Bo looked at the heart, then at her. No, he said, voice thick. She'd say you made it better. But the town remembered differently. The day Bo brought the girls to the fair committee meeting, intent on entering their orchard jam in the harvest jubilee, was the first time he'd stood in the town hall in nearly a decade. All the familiar stares were waiting for him. Stale air. Nettie Thorne's lips pursed like she'd sucked on a lemon. You want them girls to enter food? She scoffed. Bo didn't flinch. They helped grow the fruit, boil it, jar it. Got calluses and burns to prove it. They're just children, someone else said. Besides, folk remember their folks. That blood runs bad. Bo's eyes narrowed just enough. Sometimes it's not blood but what you tend that grows sweet. Sheriff Jed, sitting in the corner, cleared his throat. Don't see a rule against it. The motion passed with a thin margin. Bo didn't thank them. He just nodded and led the girls out, heads held high. The weeks leading up to the fair were slow and golden. Thea designed labels with crooked handwriting. Lottie took to stirring the jam like it was a mission from God. Bo built a booth from spare fence posts and oiled wood. He sanded every inch with care, just like he used to sand Delilah's rocking chair when it got creaky. Iris came by one afternoon with extra ribbons and advice. If they ask questions, just smile. Charm makes better sugar than sass. Even if they're mean? Lottie asked. Especially then, Iris said. The night before the jubilee, the girls couldn't sleep. They lay whispering under quilts stitched with birds and moons, their laughter soft but bright. Bo stood on the porch, lantern in hand, watching the trees sway. He spoke to Mercy out of habit. They're good girls. The kind that make you believe again. The wind stirred, soft and warm. The jubilee came with morning sun and the clatter of wagons arriving from all directions. Main Street burst with color, bunting and pies, fiddle music and foot races. And in the middle of it all, between the cider stand and the basket weavers, stood the Callahan sisters' orchard booth. Thea wore a flower crown made by Iris. Lottie wore boots one size too big but walked like she owned the ground. They smiled, offered jam on crackers, handed out samples with trembling hands. People paused. Tasted. Looked again. Bo didn't hover. He stood behind the booth like a shadow, steady and soft-spoken. "Best peach I ever had," muttered old Amos Granger after one bite. He bought 2 jars. Then another. And another. Even Nettie Thorne tasted. Her expression didn't change, but she took a second bite before walking away. Lottie offered a jar free to a younger girl too shy to speak. Thea tied a ribbon on the girl's wrist. Little things. Quiet grace. By noon, their booth was nearly bare. When Sheriff Jed stepped up onto the hay bale stage to announce the fair winners, he cleared his throat once, slowly. "In the orchard and preserves category," he said, eyes crinkling, "first prize goes to Callahan Sisters Orchard." Cheers. A few gasps. One stunned silence. Thea gripped Bo's hand, trembling. Lottie beamed like the sun had found her face. They walked onto the stage together, side by side. Bo didn't follow. He just watched, hat over his heart. Jed handed them a blue ribbon and whispered, "Well earned, little ladies." Lottie whispered back, "Damn right." Then blushed and apologized. Back home that evening, they danced on the porch to no music. Just the sound of laughter, of wind in the trees. Iris joined them for supper. Brought a pie again. Stayed a while longer than last time. Bo and Iris washed dishes in the low light of the kitchen, shoulders brushing once or twice, neither pulling away. "They make this place feel like home again," Iris said. Bo looked out the window toward the orchard, where 2 shadows chased each other with sticks and giggles. "They make me feel like I never really lost it." Later that night, Bo tucked the girls in. Thea whispered, "You're our everyday miracle, Mr. Bo." He didn't answer right away. Just pulled the quilt a little tighter around her. "You got it backwards," he finally said, brushing her hair back. "You're mine." In the hallway, he paused before Delilah's old photo. For the first time in years, he didn't flinch looking at it. He lit the lantern beneath it and whispered, "Told you I'd find my way." Outside, the orchard shimmered in the moonlight. Trees swayed with a rhythm only the heart could hear. Bo stood on the porch with a mug of cider, watching shadows stretch across the land he thought would never forgive him for surviving. And he thought, not for the first time, that maybe mercy came not as thunder or fire, but as laughter echoing through wood walls and tiny fingers slipping into yours without asking. Sometimes, the miracle wasn't in what you lost. It was in what had the courage to find you after.